Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do something a little bit different and we're going to talk about two dystopian books that I recently read. This one I read last year and this one I just read this summer. And I thought we would do a little dystopian theme today because I didn't think of myself as drawn to the dystopian genre at all. But I would say now that I've read these two, I'm actually curious to read more dystopia because there's something about the genre that's interesting. These two really captivated me. So we'll start with this one, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. I actually discussed my interpretation of the philosophical message of this book more in detail in a video that I have called Women in Translation. And in that video, I discussed two books and this is the second one. So it's the second half of the video if you're interested. So this book was actually translated from the French. Jacqueline Harpman wrote it in French in the 90s. And for some strange reason, it's had sort of a comeback in the past couple of years. I've seen it a lot on Bookstagram. So it's a book about 40 women who are trapped underground in a bunker. And the eerie thing is they don't know why they're there. The protagonist is the youngest of the group, and she has not experienced any life outside of this prison. The prison is surrounded by guards that are patrolling. The guards are male, but all the prisoners are female. So there's this strange gender dynamic going on. A major theme of the book is sort of this weird feeling that you don't know why anything is happening. Everything is a big mystery. And so you have to solve it. There's this idea that she will never know what it feels like to be in a relationship with a man because there are no men there. But I think this book explores a lot of important themes that we as humans deal with, such as having to live with a lot of unanswered questions and having to make do with whatever circumstances you're in. It deals a lot with survival. It deals a lot with community, which I think in general is a theme that comes up a lot in these dystopian novels, right? Because these dystopian novels imagine a world or society where everything is different, the rules are different, things have changed, but somehow there's still a need to survive and to somehow make it in this bleak new reality. So this book explores this really nicely. One of the things I really liked about this book was the way in which her perception of the other women kind of evolves over time. In the beginning, she's an adolescent girl and there's a little bit of rebelliousness, a slight antagonism between her and the way she sees the women. But then later on, she develops some friendships with some of the women, and you see how they manage to somehow have whatever dignity they can preserve in their difficult circumstances. So I really like that aspect and the way that the women relate to her. So some women are trying to teach her certain things, and then she's asking a lot of questions. And so some women are reluctant to answer her, and some women are more open to having discussions with her. So anyway, I really enjoyed this one, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. Highly recommend. And then the second book I wanted to talk about is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. And apparently there's another one called Parable of the Talents. So I'll be looking for that one as well. So this one was actually written decades ago, but it takes place, the beginning of the action is in July of 2024, and then it continues to 2027. So because it starts in July, it's kind of a good summer read, but definitely very dystopian. So what's interesting about this one is she's imagined a world where things have gone completely out of control. What's interesting about this book is as you're reading it, because it's so close to our time frame, right? So she gets to 2025, 2026, and also because the themes are so strangely familiar, like there's a lot of homelessness, problems with being able to find clean water. And so this one feels like it really hits close to home. It's almost disturbing in that way because you can't really feel totally detached. It's not like, there's strange dinosaurs flying in the sky or anything. It's just some kind of worsening of the social situation that has now led to a society that's out of control. So if you can picture that everything that we've seen in the news recently is now kind of like that, but a little bit worse. So the homeless crisis is so bad that the homeless people have become angry and frustrated, and so they're setting people's homes on fire. And then sometimes they're using this drug that's giving them a high when they set something on fire. So it makes everything worse. There's very little sense of safety when you go out and do things. You always have to be in a group or you have to carry a weapon because anybody could attack you and kill you and take everything you have. It's like your vision of a bad neighborhood, but on steroids. So this book to me was interesting in many different ways. So usually when I read a book, right, I'm looking for beautiful prose as well as character analysis and things like that. Now this book is a little different than that because she has these little verses. So what she's doing is she's creating her own religion throughout the book. So she describes that the main protagonist is a teenage girl who's 15 at the beginning of the book and she's about 18 by the end. And she describes how she was raised in a Baptist church, but little by little she's developing her own religion, which is more of getting away from the concept that there's this divine power that assigns a certain connotation to your actions. So if, when you go to a Baptist church, they talk about doing good deeds versus sins and God being a power that will either protect you or punish you. So there's sort of a good and bad type of dichotomy in the religion that she grew up in. And then she's creating her own religion where it's a little different than that. It's more like she sees God more as a power, more as a force in the universe. It's a little bit like nature with a capital N, something that can have a tremendous amount of impact on humans, but doesn't really differentiate between good and bad. So in other words, if there's a natural disaster, it could spare some people or kill some people, and it's not going to depend on whether or not these people are good or bad. So that's more of her religion, and her religion also is a little bit more empowering to the individual because it's like she's trying to get away from this perception that we as humans are passive beings who are just praying and hoping for something to happen versus actually molding our own destiny to be what it's going to be. So I think her feeling about her religion is that it's a little bit too passive, and she wants it to be more of something that has to do with community building and with active advocacy for each other. So I just thought that was interesting. And so that relates back to my expectation of the prose, right? So the format is like journal entries where there'll be the date and then what she did that day. So everything is very informal and very conversational. However, what she'll have at the beginning of the chapter is a little verse from her religion, so to speak. And so those verses are very symbolic and very poetic. So it's a different reading experience because you're getting that, you're getting a lot of the poetic and the beauty at the beginning of the chapter in those verses. And then the actual chapters are more informal. So I thought that was interesting. Now, in terms of the themes, I really liked the theme of community building, because there's this perception that you're constantly feeling unsafe. So in the beginning, she's in her house, and she describes that they had to build a wall around the neighborhood. They have to stay on watch and take turns with the neighbors to stay up at night with a gun and protect the neighborhood. And then as things get crazier and crazier, people get their homes burned down, and there's more and more of a sense of urgency. So this book is definitely a page turner as well, because you keep thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen next? But I really liked how you see an evolution in her character, whereas in the beginning, she's just this girl who's got these ideas, but nothing has really pushed her to take action in any way. She's mostly observing what's happening and describing what's happening around her. And then as the story progresses and she gets closer to turning 18, it's like the story just starts accelerating, and all sorts of things happen that make her become more of a leader. And I really liked that character analysis, and I really liked how she develops that aspect. She's also very realistic about how her new religion, so to speak, is going to be received. She describes conversations she has with some people when she tries to present her new religion to them. And a lot of them are sort of saying, well, it's another version of Buddhism, or they're not that impressed. And yet, she feels very strongly that this is the path forward, and this is the way things have to be in order for her and the community around her to survive. And I really liked that aspect. I really liked her strong faith in her own religion. I thought that was quite original. And also the fact that despite all the horrors, because it's in some parts of the book, it does get quite gory. At some point, there's somebody's arm hanging from a tree, things like that. And a lot of people that she knows start disappearing or dying. So definitely brace yourself for all that. But at the same time, there's sort of an undercurrent of resilience and hope in this book, which I thought was really nice. And I could see how this would need a sequel because at the end you're wondering, okay, so what else is gonna happen? So I would definitely recommend this book. And I'm wondering if you guys could put in the comments, have you read this book? Are you interested in dystopia at all? Because I'm wondering, like, what type of readers are reading such books? Are there readers out there who are just interested in fantasy, and dystopia is just sort of a subcategory of that as far as they're concerned. Or people a little bit like me, that they're mostly reading something completely different, and then once in a while they just come across something from the dystopia world. So let me know, okay, you guys? And I'm currently reading another Steinbeck called Pastures of Heaven. So I am definitely working behind the scenes on coming up with a Steinbeck themed video. So stay tuned on that one, okay? Till next time, happy reading!